Yahshua Messiah is Lord Elohim, one and only living God, the creator of the world. That is the starting point. That is the given, the certain, the truth, and reality himself. Outside him, there are only ideas and ideologies, incomplete and changing. God the Creator created the world. Then he created the man and endowed him with breath of life, which is soul and being. Soul is word, and word is truth. Truth is spirit, the spirit of truth from Lord above. Spirit of truth exists outside of ideas and concepts, and without law. To stay alive, God gave man the word to go by, instructing man to live by God's word. The word, when followed, protected man from separating from God, who is reality and man's life. Then the Creator created woman, male and female, constituting one couple. Lord Elohim entered the world approximately 2,000 years ago in order to undo the works of the woman who traded being for doubt. He was crucified to death, and after 3 days had risen to life and returned to the kingdom above, giving men opportunity to believe in him so that they may be saved from the consequences of separating from God, consequence which is death. Son of Man was crucified for man's sins, the first of which was the sin of separation, which is pride, the separation from God. Sinners now call nature, as opposed to the supernatural. The separation is self-awareness. It is also known as the knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of separation, sinners named science, science of the natural, or natural science. Self-awareness is not knowledge, but self-knowledge and self-reference. Self-awareness is not reference to reality, but to itself, and therefore it is not knowledge as such, but rather doubt and ignorance. Sinners brand themselves naturalists, and as such, they claim to know reality, or as they say, nature. They claim to know what they knew before the separation. Separation is absence of knowledge, knowledge which is truth. Ever since the separation from reality, those disconnected from reality, liars, are claiming to be telling the truth, to be speaking. Naturalists are not referring to reality, nor are they speaking about reality or nature. They are not speaking language at all. Since they are aware not of reality, but of their own awareness, they mistake for reality. They self-refer. The separation from God is self-reference, as misreference from reality. The self-awareness is the disconnection from God, who is reality. The separation is neither the knowledge nor the way. God created man, a being to be aware, not his mind to be aware of itself. Such self-aware mindset is that very separation from God. It is a byproduct of the failed attempt to bring God above, down under law, under concept. That attempted elevation of oneself, one's reason over and above reality of what one actually is, namely man, not God, is ideology called pride. So check your pride. If mind would to become aware of itself, if mind would become self-aware, it would not regard itself as mind, concept, idea, ideology, or awareness, which it is, but indeed as their polar opposites, namely as being, reality, truth, knowledge, reference, word, and God. Conversely, the self-aware mind would consider everything outside of itself, namely reality, being, and God, to be mere ideas, ideologies, and concepts, products and properties of the mind. In other words, self-awareness in rebellion against now both God and man is projecting its own status of unreality onto reality. The self-awareness is revolting against the reality by attempting to attribute reality its own status of self-awareness, self-knowledge, ideas, and ideology, while claiming it itself is not self-awareness or idea, but in fact being and reality. This is war between self-awareness and reality, where your mind turns against your being and soul in order to distribute and abolish you. From the time of separation from God, man's awareness wages war on your being and reality, attempting to classify whatever exists at the moment, namely reality as ideology, as something unreal. Unreal because outside the self-aware mindset to which naturalists or sinners now refer to as I, there is nothing inherently objectionable to awareness, consciousness, or intelligence, provided it is not located in place of your sight, blocking your line of vision with concepts, as that is what is happening with the separated man. He cannot well distinguish between what he knows from what he sees, since his being is now not pure but mixed as a result of his blindness. He mistakes what he thinks for what he sees, which is to mistake ideology for reality, thinking for being. The mistake, if it be mistake rather than ill will, occurs because now man's way, or the starting point of man's movement, is no longer truth and reality, but their opposite. The lie that when separated from God, man is a being rather than the separation point from God. Separation which is not a being, but idea, a mindset. The knowledge of good and evil is an attempted mix. Mix is division of identity. God created us pure, not mixed. The boastful act of man to rise himself to the level of God above redirected man's awareness from its path upwards towards God in the attempt to arrest, apprehend, comprehend, and categorize the relation between man and God. Naturally, God instantly withdrew his connection from the man, and then man's awareness, instead of apprehending the targeted relation, which his spirit of truth fell to wit on itself. Man's awareness, now without the light of truth from God above completing it, became self-aware at that very moment. Shift in awareness occurred. From then on, Adam ceased being aware of reality, and his mind itself started being aware. The separation void became self-aware and is the self-awareness. It is a conceptual abyss we are located in, not in reality. Such self-aware separation we now call the self or I, the knower of reality, the truth teller or speaker. It is a vantage point from which we speak, act, and build. However, it is not a fixed point, but a moving, viciously circular mind, which does not correspond to reality, as it is non-correspondence in itself, blindness and doubt. As such, separatists or sinners are not speakers because their words lack the author. The author is no longer a being, but a gap or a hole in being, an idea, a thought that thinks itself, a demon, a theorist. Before separation of man from God above, there was between man and God a connecting relation proceeding from God like a ray of light from above down to constitute man's being and complete his awareness. Disconnected and without God, man is not a being but idea, a concept, a mortal. What exactly is that relation? The relation is the truth. The connection between man and God above is spirit of truth, constituting man's being and soul. Soul is spirit of truth. The moment the awareness became self-aware, it refuses to accept words, as words are truth, and instead tries to block truth on the premise that it cannot find concept or category for truth or common denominator for truth, and lie. Therefore, it concludes that truth is not real and that it does not exist. To a self-aware mind, reality or things in reality are not reality and things, but concepts and ideas. However, it is simply not true that a concept or idea is the test of reality or the condition of existence of truth and reality. Truth does not require concept or criteria to be the truth and really objective from all points of view. Truth does not require theory, definition, category, account, or justification. The evil mind does not want to accept that fact, since the fact is the truth. The self-awareness is a prison cell. Refusing to accept that truth is not a concept of property, but person, the living man above. We, sinners without him, are the concepts or ideas. Truth is located inside awareness, not inside of self-awareness. Truth or soul is outside of self-awareness, outside of sin, outside of separation. Truth is outside you. You are the other one, the counter-reference, the crookedness, the turn away from God. So to cultivate the relation between man and God, God set instructions for men to follow. Violation of the word would cut the relation, which was man's lifeline. And the Lord God commanded him, "You may eat freely from every tree of the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat of it, you will surely die." Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 in the Bible. There was an event that led the created man to separate from God. Within the world that God had created, woman was approached by Satan. The reptile used its voice in the interaction with the woman. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? The woman replied, "We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die." The serpent used sounds of words to reply, "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Facing the true statement and the false statement, she confronted truth and lie, and had to act. However, at that point, there was to her no separation, no dualism, no inequality, no change, no multiplicity, and no plurality of reality she was confronting, since falsehood to her was not part of reality, but merely part of her awareness. So there were no two realities opposing each other from her point of view at that time. Her motive, however, was not to differentiate between truth and the lie, and reject the lie, but to change what counts as truth, what counts as reference to reality, what counts as the way of life. Before the separation, the way of life and reference was for man to accept words, but after the separation, the way is not acceptance of words, but rejection of words by equaling them to other words in order to form concepts, categories, or ideas of those words, ideas which alone are acceptable, since regarded as properties of the mind. Those very equations form concepts or categories, ideas, definitions, meanings, principles, or laws around words, so as to subordinate words of which soul is made. Those very equations, ideas, meanings, principles, and laws are what had separated men from God. Law is a stumbling block on the way of life. Laws are principles, and principles are concepts, and concepts are ideas. The contrast between a man and a woman is drawn here, where the way of life according to man is acceptance of word, truth, and reality, whereas the way of life according to woman is law and following patterns. Laws and equations are synonyms. Laws completed not by an author, a being, but by other theories or ideologies are self-referential laws. The separation from God above was caused by those equations, by the attempted equality. Those equations of concepts or ideas with each other is what constructs the separation from God, which then, being self-aware, regards itself as nature and reality, when in fact it's counter-reference from reality, a mindset referring to itself. The first of those equations was woman's equation of words with lies, which is to say, words without authors, which in practice results not in equality between them, between reality and self-awareness, but in the equating of their attempted concepts, namely words without authors, which other words, without authors, in order to connect those two contradictory statements with a common denominator called meaning, which later was called object. object, nature, and reality, when in fact it is only an idea, concept, self-awareness in place of reality and your soul. It is that self-awareness which later through history begins to expand over reality by making further counter-references, further equations, further attempts to equate reality with ideology, to ideas and concepts, so as to encroach upon reality and to reduce reality down to oneself, to self-awareness, and to remove the so-called duality or dualism where before there was none. It is a mindset revolving around man's soul, trying to comprehend it, apprehend it, absorb it, categorize it, conceptualize it, kill and eat it, distribute and abolish it. That is what the demon of self-awareness is doing from the beginning of separation to the present day. It